BRICS countries want their own banking system. The BRICS countries are trying to make a new banking system. This system aims to help them avoid using SWIFT, a bank system that comes from the West. They also want to stop depending on the US dollar, US rules, and the sanctions that come from the West. This effort has caught a lot of media attention. But now, reports say that Western financial organizations like the IMF and the World Bank are working to stop this from happening. In this video, we will look closely at this topic. We will talk about what this new banking system is, what it can do, why it is good, and why Western countries do not want it to succeed. Let's dive in. At the recent Brics summit in Kazan, Russian President Vladimir Putin talked about the need for a new BRICS financial system. This system would help the BRICS countries use their own money instead of the US dollar and avoid Western banking systems. Putin mentioned that the current system, which uses the dollar, is often used as a tool for politics. This situation makes it less reliable. To fix this, the BRICS leaders discussed creating a new payment system that would let them trade using their local currencies. This move would help protect the countries from sanctions and outside pressures. One important idea discussed at the summit is called mBridge. This is a project that wants to use new technology called Distributed Ledger Technology (DLT) to help countries send money to each other more easily. With mBridge, BRICS countries could manage their trades securely and cheaply without needing to use Western banks. Experts believe that using this new system could save these countries a lot of money every year by cutting out middlemen costs. The BRICS group also wants to set up more trade hubs to exchange important goods like grains and oil. They want to make sure that prices are fair and not controlled by Western countries. What is mBridge? So, what exactly is mBridge? mBridge stands for Multiple Central Bank Digital Currency Bridge. It is a project created by the Bank for International Settlements, BIS, in collaboration with several central banks. The goal of this project is to see how central bank digital currencies can help improve cross-border payments using blockchain technology. Many current payment systems for sending money between countries are slow, costly, and rely on middleman banks. mBridge wants to change that by making the process quicker and more transparent. The main goals of mBridge include making cross-border payments faster and cheaper, increasing transparency in transactions, allowing smaller banks to participate without relying on big banks, and reducing risks during settlements caused by time delays. The technology behind mBridge uses blockchain to secure transactions and make them clear. It allows different national digital currencies to exchange directly and includes smart contracts that automatically execute agreements when specific conditions are met. This setup makes transactions more efficient and trustworthy. Although mBridge isn't officially a BRICS project, it is closely related to what the BRICS countries want. China is part of BRICS, which shows it is interested in creating new payment systems. BRICS countries want to use their own currencies and not rely on the traditional financial systems dominated by the West, which matches mBridge's goals. There is also a chance that more BRICS countries could join this project or create similar systems to work together financially. Recently, President Putin suggested creating a BRICS bridge that would be similar to mBridge. This idea would help BRICS nations run their financial operations without depending on the US system. The BRICS countries are exploring the use of their own currencies for trade to lessen their dependence on the US dollar. However, some countries, like India, South Africa, and the UAE, do not want to harm the current dollar system. Western policymakers are becoming more worried, especially since China has built the technology for mBridge. Some officials think it was a mistake to let China take the lead on such a sensitive project. They emphasize the need to manage any changes in the global financial system carefully. If M-Bridge works, it could challenge the dollar's dominance and help smaller economies access better payment systems. While M-Bridge looks promising for improving international payments, it also brings some important challenges. These include making sure it follows international rules, like anti-money laundering and counter-terrorism laws, protecting against cybersecurity threats, understanding the political effects of this project, especially for countries under sanctions, and addressing doubts about China's leadership in this area. In recent times, the US has used the dollar's strong position in global transactions to enforce sanctions, especially after the Russia-Ukraine conflict. This situation has pushed some countries to look for alternatives to protect themselves from US control. Even though the dollar is still the main currency for international trade, people are worried that systems like M-Bridge could help countries like Russia, which is under US sanctions, avoid these restrictions. Agustin Carstens, the BIS general manager, whose term ends in June, stated at a recent event that the BIS cannot support any project involving Brics countries because they are under sanctions. He made it clear that this policy is non-negotiable. In a surprising turn, the Bank for International Settlements is considering stopping the M-Bridge project after President Putin pointed out that its technology could be used to avoid sanctions and challenge the dollar's position in global finance. This topic has been heavily discussed among central bankers and finance ministers in recent meetings. Sources familiar with the talks indicate that shutting down the project is a serious option. Nevertheless, countries like China and Russia are still exploring similar ideas. M-Bridge aims to allow global money transfers outside of the traditional banking system, which relies heavily on the dollar and is vulnerable to US sanctions. Instead, it creates direct digital links between the central banks of participating countries. For example, in January, the UAE's central bank announced that it successfully transferred 50 million dirhams, around $13.6 million, to China using M-Bridge. By June, the BIS had invited private lenders and other financial institutions to participate in actual transactions. During the recent Brics summit in Kazan, President Putin reiterated his idea for the Brics Bridge, a system similar to M-Bridge. He argued that this new system would help member countries operate without relying on the US financial system. Many members support using their national currencies more in trade, but countries like India, South Africa, and the UAE do not want to disrupt the current dollar-based system. In the official statement from the Brics summit, the group raised concerns about the negative impacts of illegal sanctions on the global economy. They called for reforms to the IMF and the World Bank, but did not specifically mention the BRICS bridge.